Are you ready to find out how to have your assistant get more work done? In this video, I'm going to dive through a few things that you can add to how you work with your virtual assistant, whether you just hire them or you've been working with them for a while, and a few things that could kind of just really help the productivity of yourself, of course, and a few things that could just help your own productivity and as well as your assistant's productivity. And this is coming highly from someone whose assistant just celebrated her 2-year anniversary, and as well as someone who does run a virtual assistant agency, and I teach a lot of these tips to our clients. And this is also something that I am very passionate about, is having business owners learning how to delegate effectively. Now, the first thing is to reassess, or to just, if you have not done it before, just assess what is your 80-20. And what it is, if you've never heard of it, is essentially from the book, the 80-20 principle, or Pareto's law. Basically, is you're finding out of the 10 things that you're doing in a day, what are the 2 that you absolutely cannot delegate, and then going ahead and delegating or automating or deleting the things that you definitely don't need to get done in your business. Now, between you and your assistant, if you already have hired one or you're working with one for a while, you've probably done some sort of exercise similar to this. But if you want to make sure that your assistant can actually get the work done, you might want to just reassess and be able to see the things that you've delegated so far to them. Are those things that you kind of have to keep to your own expertise, or are these things that you can now start giving to someone else? And as a really good example is, you want to assess what are things that make you a lot of money and needs your expertise. That is basically the area in your life that is your 20%. Like, no one else can really do this because it needs a little bit of expertise. It needs your oversight essentially as the business owner to make sure that this gets done right. So for example, for me at 2XU, this is still the sales process, just because in 2XU we do make sure that each client is matched with the right EA. It's not just like, hey, here's an assistant for you. We make sure that they are actually the right match, not just skills wise, but also personality wise. So I still want a lot of oversight in that area. However, everything else, for the tasks that make us money inside of the business, but doesn't necessarily need a lot of my expertise, or it can basically be done by someone else. So this is essentially managing the client. This is also sending things like reports to the clients or follow up with the client. These are things that make the company money, but doesn't have to be me. So these are the first couple of things that I was able to delegate to my own assistant. The third category are things that don't really make you a lot of money in the business, or not a lot of results, and something that is a little bit your expertise or something you enjoy doing. So for example, for me, this was content repurposing, this was content creation. And for this area, you want to make sure that you either delegate that or automate it, and you don't have to be the one doing it. Again, the goal is for you to free yourself up. That's why you've hired an assistant, not to add things to your plate, but to take things off of it. So even though it is something that you enjoy doing, that is something that you like doing for yourself, it might be time to have someone else take care of that. So for example, for me, my 20% is to record these 20-minute videos every single week, and my amazing team takes care of the rest. But it used to be to just be my assistant, taking care of everything, until we got to the point where we had enough work to actually have a team take care of it. And the last category is essentially what are the things that are not really making a lot of money or results for your business and doesn't really need any expertise at all. So these are probably things that you want to delete or assess if that's something that is for later. So for example, inside of 2XU, one of the things that has been on our list for the longest time, but we haven't been able to get to just because we're lucky enough, because we have referrals and people that we network with, are running Facebook ads for the business to get more leads in. But because again, it's not something that's my expertise, at the moment, we haven't really found an ROI for it yet, then this is something that I have put into a later file for the business. I don't have to necessarily delete it off, but these are things that I don't have to delegate to someone else just yet. So that is what I mean by assessing what your 80-20 is, like just looking at it again, especially if you've been working with your assistant for a while and you're not quite sure why things aren't really getting done or not aligning with where you want to be. You want to just reassess of like, hey, did I delegate the right thing to my assistant or the people I work with? Or should this be more something that really needs my own expertise and my POV or point of view for it to actually get done? Second thing is to train don't abdicate. And what I mean by this is a lot of the time when we hire an assistant or we're even just thinking of hiring someone for the business, we get overwhelmed with the thought of like, oh, I'm doing the task, and at the same time I'm gonna have to train someone to do this task with me. And a lot of the time what they end up doing is they just abdicate. They're just like, hey, this is task, just do it yourself, figure it out. And as much as this can work a lot of the time, the reality of it is that your assistant or whoever it is you're hiring will only work to the capacity of what they learn and understand. So for example, for most of our clients who are coaches and consultants, if they accidentally do this, and we do train them in 2XU to not do this, is if, let's say, the EA never worked with someone who was a coach or consultant before, but they've been an executive assistant for, let's say, someone who had a construction business or someone who had more of a physical business, like I say, coffee shop or something else. It's going to be to the capacity of how the assistant understands the work, that they can do that work without being trained, basically. Let's say you've never trained them at all. They can get the work done, but it's not going to be to the capacity of what makes sense for your business, because they only have, let's say, up to this understanding of how things work in your business. Because again, either you didn't have the time to train them or you didn't want to train them. They can only do things to that capacity. So this is what I mean with train, don't abdicate. You want to put in the time to walk your assistant through how things get done in your business. That way they actually can get done within your parameters or within your standards, rather than your assistant trying to figure things out and running like a headless chicken. You want to avoid this, especially in the first 90 days of your assistant. Next is have them be your filter. And what I mean by this is a lot of the time when people have an assistant, they end up just CCing their assistant when it comes to emails, or just auto-forwarding things, or they have the copy of their calendar, but they don't have necessarily control on the calendar. Now, what this is you basically just created a job for yourself to filter how the business runs, and you've even added an additional filter of what do I send to my assistant and what I don't. And the reality is you want to have your executive assistant be that filter between the world and you. You know, if you're walking down the street, you don't want people pitching you left and right about your business. You want it to be filtered through an actual person. So that is why letting go of that sense of control, basically, because in reality it's not really real, of giving them your email, giving them control of your calendar, gives it to where your assistant is a little bit more effective in getting work done, because then they're cleaning up things that you shouldn't be doing, and you're only seeing the things that you should be the only one to respond to. Let's say it's a deal that you're working on, or something that your EA might not have enough context on, at least for now, that they can't respond to. You're only looking at the things that need your attention. It's already been filtered through your assistant's understanding and context of how the business works. So you, again, only see the things that are important to you. So if you want your assistant to learn more of the context of how things work and how to get more things done, is just have them be your filter. Is have them learn your preferences, have them manage your email, your calendar, where things are at. So then for you, you're kind of freed up and you don't have to think about those things, because you know that your assistant basically is taking care of it. Next is give them the outcome, but not the how. And what I mean by this is a lot of times when we're delegating things, we give a little bit of both. Is we give them like, hey, this is what I need you to get done, and this is how specifically I want you to get it done. Now, depending on the level of expertise that your EA might be in, it might be more helpful to give them, hey, this is what I want to see, versus like walking them through step by step how to do it. You're just giving them a little bit of that freedom and empowering them, like, hey, this is how I want to get it done. I'm leaving it up to you to figure out the how. And this is honestly one of the most effective ways that you can get out of the way of making sure that your assistant actually gets work done, rather than you watching how they're doing it every single time. You're going to be able to give them feedback based on the outcome and not necessarily always on the how they did it, as long as they were able to actually get it done. Next is you want to set standards and then adjust. What I mean by this is a lot of the time, especially if we see outcome from other people of like, hey, they made this amazing infographic, I want my graphic artist to do this, or I want my assistant to figure out how to create this for my business. And a lot of times we set that standard, but in reality, when it comes to when it actually gets done, is you do want to adjust then your standards of like, okay, this is what I was looking for, but actually this matches the brand a little bit better. So you adjust things to match what actually makes sense to your business, rather than making your assistant kind of really match the level of output for someone else who might have resources that you don't have, and being able to actually have it match and make sense within your business. So when it comes to outcomes, or just judging basically how the outcome of a task came out with, is you want to make sure that you start adjusting your own, either your expectations or adjusting it to make sense for your business. And of course, give and ask for feedback. And this is something that I see a lot of people miss when it comes to growing or training or even working with their virtual assistant, is they miss the part where they give feedback when it comes to the outcome, especially in those first 90 days of working with an assistant. It's really key that you give them like, hey, I loved X, Y, and Z. I would love to see more of ABC in your work because I didn't see it as much. Instead of just, right off the bat criticizing them, you want to highlight the things that you want to see a little bit more. And the other key thing here is to ask them for feedback of like, hey, how can I work with you better? Like, how can I manage you better? Or whenever there's a little bit of miscommunication of like, hey, how could we have handled this a little bit better? That way you and the assistant are kind of in this together because you are a team. They're basically filtering everyone else around you to be able to get your time and attention. So you want to make sure that you build that working relationship with them, that communication style, syncing the two of you, which brings me to the next point, which is basically just caring about them and their goals. Now, the reason why my current assistant just hit their 2-year anniversary with me, even though 2XU, we've now hit our 5-year anniversary, is before that, I had another assistant who you've probably seen on this channel as well, who had a goal of starting her own business with her family. And when that opportunity came up, I encouraged her to do it, empowered her to do it. I was a little bit EA-less for a few weeks there, but essentially that's kind of part of keeping in mind that just because you are kind of locked in your business doesn't mean that you lock in your assistant to your business as well. So caring about your assistant means that you care about them beyond just what they can give to you in your business. And yes, it can be transactional. Yes, it can be, just business. But in reality, if you want to build that relationship with that person, with the person that you want to be your right hand, with the person who you want to be your second brain in your business, is you want to build that relationship of asking them about their family, how their weekend went, what their hobbies are, what are the best ways that you can reward them, what are their love languages when it comes to receiving, are they more effective if you give them, words of affirmation? Do they love it when they receive a little gift in the mail? Whatever that looks like, it's going a little bit of the extra mile of developing that relationship with your assistant by caring about them and knowing about their current goals or where they want to go and supporting them through that. You definitely don't want to be the boss who pulls them back if they are working towards where they want to go in life. And the next is reminding them of your vision and then tying them in. So whatever their goals are, you could also start tying in like, hey, I know, traveling internationally is one of your goals in life. Let's start a plan where we get the business to the point where we can start traveling internationally together. So this is another really good example of me and my assistant. Last year, we were able to go to Malaysia and even a day trip through Singapore just because we were able to get the business to that point where we were able to attend a networking conference there. And I was able to bring her along because it was, again, one of her goals in life was to travel internationally. So I was able to grab her through, that was matching essentially the goals and getting the business to where we wanted to be. And of course, reminding her of the vision of the business, which is to create mini businesses. So she's on board with that. She's always thinking of like, hey, what if we add this to the business? What if we add this to 2XU? Whatever that looks like. And that is the importance of knowing where they want to go in life and then tying it to the vision of the company and finding ways to kind of celebrate wins together as you guys get through the goals and the vision that you currently have. And a key thing, and this is a little bit more on the operation side, is to create systems and to constantly update them. And what that means is making sure that between you and your assistant, neither of you are bottlenecks in the business. So what that means is making sure you have standard operating procedures that someone else in the company can follow, and creating training materials or assets and templates that's going to be easy for your assistant to train someone else. A brilliant example of this is for the first year of me and my assistant, we didn't have yet a client success manager. At that point, I was still at a good capacity-ish of handling all of the clients that we had, but as we were already creating a lot of the systems and the templates, it made it easier for us that once we were able to hire our amazing current client success manager, he was able to be trained really quickly and easily because me and my assistant, we were able to actually go ahead and systematize things, automate things, and keep it up to date, that it was easy for us to train the next role in the business. So that's why it's really important to systematize and create templates and assets and to keep it up to date, because then it's easier to give it to someone else. And the most key part is neither you or the assistant are a bottleneck in the business because you guys have documented things in another place. It's not all just stuck in your head. And lastly, let them explore, especially in the age of AI where it's rapidly growing. There's so many new tools or tactics or strategies on how to use AI effectively. Between me and my assistant, one of the biggest things is we constantly share ideas with each other. I'm like, hey, what if we added this? Or she has basically the freedom to explore and find systems and tools that will make her more effective herself, because she does have the context of how things are inside of the business. She has the context of where we want to go and her own goals as well and her own growth. She's able to explore and bring back things to take action on within the business. When it comes to delegating, the main thing people usually forget is empowering people, empowering their virtual assistants to be able to get more things done even without them. That's kind of the goal. That is the dream. That's why we've hired an assistant in the first place, is to free ourselves up so we're not the only ones doing things in the business. And as the business scales and grows, within the span of 2 years that I've had my assistant, we've been able to grow our team from 3 people to now 10 people. And we are constantly growing as well. And one of the key things of making it happen is I essentially followed everything else in the list that I've just walked you guys through. So hopefully it helps. If you guys like this video, of course, make sure to hit the thumbs up button right there. Comment below, what are your hot tips when it comes to having your assistant get more work done, or if you have any questions as well, I would love to know. And if you still haven't yet, make sure to hit the subscribe button right there so you don't miss any of my videos every Sunday and Thursday on how to work from home and how to have a business from home, which you guys can check out YouTube playlist right here and the latest video right here. I hope you guys have an amazing day, and remember that small steps matters, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.